Good morning, Doctor. Welcome back.
Good morning, Venkatesh. Nice to be back with you.
Thank you. So I'll introduce the topic as always, and then we can hand over to you. Yeah.
Right.
The reason why today's topic is ambition and is part of our series is that ambition is a very good example of something we need in our day-to-day life. Without ambition and the drive that it creates, we can't manage our responsibilities and do the various things we need to do. On the other hand, ambition is something that can so very easily get out of hand and become a direct threat to our wellness. And therefore, it's a perfect example of something that has to be kept in balance. And that's why it's part of this series. Yeah. Over to you, Doc.
Okay. Thank you. Now, when we use the word ambition, we normally use it with the connotation of something very positive and very driving and driven.
Correct.
Today, supposing you got a 10 million company, and tomorrow you want it to be 16 million company, and so forth. And there's no end to that. And the end of ambition goes on and on and on. And we normally tend to believe that ambition is good.
Right.
And by and large, it is. But it is not really the case. And you will see the bad side of ambition, the dark undersurface of ambition.
Right.
Julius Caesar, the drama, the play authored by the good old Shakespeare.
Right.
And in that, he says, this is after Julius Caesar was killed by Brutus by being stabbed in the back.
Right.
And as a matter of obituary, Mark Antony comes to deliver a lecture in memory of Caesar.
Right.
And he says, Brutus is an honorable man, which is fine. And he also says Brutus is ambitious. Now, this is funny. An honorable man is fine. But if you say Brutus is also ambitious, then you start questioning the word ambition by itself.
Right.
But by and large, ambition is used in the positive sense, especially in the world of commerce.
Right.
Yeah, comments?
No, you're right. You're right. I'm agreeing. Please go ahead. Yes, in the world of commerce in particular, to not have ambition seen as a major weakness, or it's definitely something people question. Yeah.
Right. And in the business world, where growth is taken to be the virtue of everything. Today you are a 10 million company, tomorrow you want to be a 40 million company, which we saw just now, and we say it is good. But if it's going to create problems for you, then it is a problem for everybody. Next slide, please. Now, Gandhi said the world has enough for everyone's need, but it's not enough for everyone's greed. Now, ambition and greed are supposed to go together. And if you are not greedy, you are not ambitious, and vice versa. That's a very funny way of dealing with the world, but it is adding to all the vices in the world. You grow and grow. Yeah, there is no end to that. And you say, wow, very good, very good. That's a very bad thing to do. And then we have to bring in certain other elements by way of the value systems that one lives in. Gandhi's sayings are very good, but Gandhi was Gandhi, and not everybody could have Gandhi type of ambition and so forth. But we have to live in a very highly practical and pragmatic and dangerously positive and aggressive world. And there you have to handle the word ambitious. If you keep on using that word ambitious like Brutus did, and then Mark Antony or Julius Caesar, nobody would exist, like that. Next slide, please.
So a thought here, I think, because, ambition is clearly a word which can have both positive and negative connotations. Greed, on the other hand, has clearly negative connotations. And maybe one of the ways to see it is greed is when things are out of balance, right? So of course you need to acquire, of course you need to, like you said, we live in the practical world. You have to deal with the practicalities of day-to-day life. But greed is when, instead of it being something that you manage and are in control of, it becomes a compulsion, which I think leads us to the next point, right?
Right. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
So, clergymen apart, even ordinary day-to-day man on the street, there's two types of ambitions. One is good, another is bad. And clergy, particularly the uh, gurus and other people of our generation today have
Right.
to create an ambition which is godly.
Right.
And the danger of selfish ambition is lurking around all the time.
Right.
The moment your non-selfish ambition is there and it is replaced by selfish ambition,
Right.
then life gets complicated and very bad. So the danger of selfish ambition has to be kept in mind, and you should know where to strike the balance, as Venkatesh would call it. Balance is the essence of everything. So
Right.
the ambition comes under that format,
Right.
and
Selfish
yeah,
ambition is by definition out of balance.
out of balance. Correct. So you are, you say I, me, and myself, and you want everybody else to be lost.
Right.
That is a selfish ambition,
Correct.
and we have to curb it. We have to curb it.
So again, I think the observation that comes to my mind, and that's why I think these topics are very interesting because even selfishness, right? Self-interest is different from selfishness. You
Right.
have to know, for example, you have to pass your exam. You can't pass someone else's exam, right? Or you have
Right.
to
Right.
meet your targets at work. You can't meet someone else's targets before you have met your own. And that is sensible. I think when ambition becomes one where you have to exclude others, or when you think that doing yours by definition means doing for yourself alone or acquiring for yourself alone to the cost of others, and that gets out of hand, is when it can be called selfish ambition. Does that make sense, doctor?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And there is a danger in that.
Got it.
So
The next slide.
now, yeah. So one has to ask oneself, I am ambitious, all right, and I'm being liked for being ambitious by
Right.
friends and relatives. And at the same time, I should also question myself whether my ambition is selfish or selfless. This
Right.
is where the godly definition of ambition will come in. And we will see how to take it further in a very innocuous way,
Right.
preserving the sanity and sanctity of everything around us.
Right.
So we have to ask that question. Is it
Right.
selfish or selfless? Next slide, please. Yeah, keep adding comments as and when you want.
So one more thought that comes here, right? Just to the point before. I think
Right,
one point we made was that selfishness is when you are gone beyond the basic need to preserve yourself and quote unquote your unit, whether it's your family or your team or whatever else. Uh, I think another way of looking at selflessness or selfishness is when you think of ambition defined by more than yourself, automatically it comes into balance. So if you define your ambitions as I want to take my team forward, I want to take my family forward, or at least I want to take my society forward, your ambition at least automatically has some level of balance inbuilt to sort of how I thought about it. Uh,
right.
does that again make some sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And the larger context of ambition, of course, ways and ways of interpretation will exist.
Yeah.
But when you include others, right from the family all the way up to empires and kingdoms,
Right.
when it is inclusive, it is taken as good. But
Right.
even that can be questioned. Even that, the
Yeah,
inclusive
yeah, yeah.
ambition can be a question.
Correct.
Yeah. For example, you cannot commit a murder in the name of your organization.
Correct.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You'll say, I'm
Perfect.
inclusive. Inclusive.
No, no,
Murdering.
and huge crimes or lots of injustices have happened by people saying I'm working for my country or working for my
Yeah.
society or for my religion or for my family. Which is why I guess
Yeah.
even in the scriptures sometimes when they say focused on family, it doesn't necessarily mean good. It quite often means
Correct.
that you're obsessed with your family but not with anyone else.
Right, right. So
Yeah. Sorry,
true.
sorry, doctor. Yeah.
No, no,
When
no, it's
ambition
fine.
becomes
It's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. So when ambition becomes obsession,
yeah.
what is obsession? You are obsessed with something. For
Right.
example, particularly in youth, you are so intensely and immensely in love with your mate or your partner that you are obsessed with that person, and consequently, or side by side, your productivity is totally, gone for a toss because you are obsessed with your relative.
Right.
So that ambition can be, for example, we'll see a couple of more examples here.
Right.
And ambition should be under control,
Right.
and it should not be an obsession, because anything by way of obsession is bad, very bad. In
Right.
legal language, BAD, bad. This is a bad law. So this is bad.
Yeah.
Now, how to keep it good? you will see. You have to make a tremendous effort,
Right.
and we will see at least part of it as we go along.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
comment, Venku?
No, I think absolutely going with the larger theme. If it's in your control and you are able to manage it, which is what we are going to discuss, then it is not an
Right,
obsession. If it is controlling you, then it is an obsession, right? Where you can no
right,
longer think clearly about where it sits in the larger scheme of things.
right. Now, a very classic example is of Richard Nixon, the former president of the United States.
Right.
He was a very aggressive politician
Right.
and very, couldn't care less kind of a thing. That is
Right.
where we'll call it a bad uh, uh, obsession, whatever, good
Right.
obsession, bad obsession, what. Or you can use any adjective you want.
Right.
So this man won a first term of presidency in the 70s, 60s and 70s.
Correct.
And he was a very good administrator, very good politician, very, like Brutus. He was honorable, but that led to dishonor on some other front.
Correct.
So there was a classic, famous scandal during his time, which
Right.
we went by the name Watergate scandal.
Right.
Yeah. And now Nixon won the first term as a president, but he wanted to win the second term and, if possible, third term and even beyond. And he was ambitious. Yeah. And he sort of created ways of doing something totally dishonorable. And we sent a few of his cronies to a place called Watergate.
Right.
And Watergate was the center for conspiracies and backstabbings and all bad elements of life, all bad elements of politics, particularly. And lo and behold, he was caught.
Right.
And he thought he wouldn't be caught, but he was caught, and then that led to a huge hue and cry, and ran all the way up to impeachment of Richard Nixon.
Correct.
And finally, of course, the Congress let him be, but he was disgraced, and he was not really fully impeached. The next
Right.
president came over.
Correct.
This is a very classic example of very, very bad person. He's a very bad person. When you reach this level, you are just a bad person. And that creates complications everywhere. So Watergate scandal can be mentioned as an example of all bad things in ambition.
Right.
Any comment you go?
No, so I agree with you in that absolutely. This was ambition out of control. I think,
Right.
like you yourself use Brutus's example, right? I think
Okay.
it is, and maybe Gandhiji's example, maybe it's the behavior that is bad. The person can, if the behavior becomes worse and worse, then you call the person a bad person. But if you look at
Right.
Nixon, like you yourself said in your sentences, Nixon actually did a lot of good for US as well, right? He was a very unpleasant personality, and what he ended up being sacked for or impeached for was very negative.
Yeah.
But that's what can happen, right? A person who is doing good can get out of control. Then
Yeah.
his actions or his worst actions can define him and his legacy. Can be
Right.
the unfortunate, result of that ambition.
Right. Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Now, how do you know what kind of ambition is good and what is bad? Yeah. And where do we draw the line? Now,
Right.
for drawing the line, not just in ambition, but in any walk of life, we use the term Lakshman Rekha,
Correct.
because this is a term picked up from Ramayana,
Correct.
and where the proverbial Sita ji was not allowed to cross a line lest she come under the bad elements of Ravana.
Right.
But she listened. So she crossed the Lakshman Rekha and got into trouble. Now,
Right.
the Lakshman Rekha is metaphoric Rekha,
Right.
where on one side of the Rekha you are okay, on the other side of the Rekha you are not.
Correct.
And for anything at all, in business, in commerce, in entertainment, everything at all, everybody has to draw a line. And
Right.
that line has to be emphasizing the good elements of ambition, good elements of behavior in general.
Right.
Bad behavior means you have crossed the Lakshman Rekha
Correct.
and you are getting into trouble or you are creating trouble.
Correct.
So Lakshman Rekha is the desired line drawn by mythological figures. And if you stay on the right side of Lakshman Rekha, you are good. If you go onto the wrong side of Lakshman Rekha, you are bad. So, but that line is required because, many times such lines are very vague and very diffuse. So
Correct.
you can't make out what the rekha is. Like we saw, you can utter a lie. In Mahabharata also, that thing is paradoxically, you can utter a lie for the good of the country, but it may not really be that because your Lakshman Rekha is somewhere else, and so forth. So the Lakshman Rekha itself is something you can run a seminar or workshop on. It's
Yes.
in commerce, it is, it is in everything, in every walk of life.
Correct.
So, any comment, Vinko?
No, very, very interesting. And like you said, a topic for another, almost a whole session. That
Right,
balance cannot be had without some kind of a line. That line has to be a firm line, otherwise it loses meaning. It's completely vague,
right,
right? But
right,
equally, I guess, as the Mahabharata talks about it, you can have those lines, and you can stay within those lines technically and still be uh, uh, encouraging adharma. And so, therefore, I think
right,
the whole this how do you draw the line is all about what balance is, right? And I think it's a
right.
perfect, you're right. We should do a session on how to draw lines and where to draw them. Yeah, yeah, perfect, perfect.
Right, right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Now, in the context of ambition, yeah, ambition becoming obsession and obsession becoming rabid behavior and so forth,
Right,
this OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder
right,
used in psychology and psychiatry comes into play.
right,
Now, if you are being so obsessed with something that you are forced to behave in a particular way, compulsory, something is compelling you to behave in a way, that is obsessive compulsion, and that is a disorder. It is not normal, and it leads to abnormal behavior and disastrous results. Now, obsessive compulsive disorder may be sounding good for the person concerned, but for others around him and for his family and friends and others, obsessive compulsive disorder is a disaster. And it's not easy to control.
right.
You have to take the help of professionals to see that this OCD, short form is OCD.
Yeah,
You have to prevent obsession, you have to thereby reduce compulsion and thereby correct disorder. You can look at it that way. So
yeah,
that is very possible if your ambition is bad, if your ambition is selfish and bad, this disorder will arise.
right,
Next slide, please. Now, ultimately, you see that bad ambition, selfish ambition, etc., etc., are no good because you are violating the very basic principles of success. If you want success, if you want blooming admiration from others, you have to do it by hard work and not by cutting corners and cutting behavioral cross lines.
right,
So hard work is the key to
right,
success. But the
right.
temptations are many, and in fact, far too many, that you forget that hard work is required for success. You say, I will cross the wires, I will cross whatever I want. Yeah? I, me, myself, I will do what the hell you want, etc.
Correct,
And that is hard work annihilated. So you
correct,
should make sure that you are breeding your behavior, your value systems, etc. Emphasize hard work and not cutting connections, cutting cross or whatever.
right.
Yeah. Next slide, Venkatesh. Any comment?
No, I think after this slide, which is connected, I guess cheating as opposed to hard work. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Cheating is a very easy thing to do nowadays because right from kindergarten all the way up to PhD, we encourage cheating. It may sound very cynical.
Yeah,
Somehow our educational system, or for that matter, even our general system of commerce and whatever, we indirectly encourage cheating, and we quantify it by adding a price tag to that.
right,
He cheated. Oh, how much did he cheat? If it is 2 rupees, it is good. If it is 20 rupees, it is bad.
right,
So that is cheat. Then we condone cheating.
right,
They say, okay, oh, he cheated, but it's only for a small amount, so let him cheat. Now,
right,
once that starts happening, there is no stopping it. It is
right,
like a telephone call meant for you, taken by your son, and you are told that they tell him that daddy is not there, daddy is not there, when daddy is very much there, and we train our offspring to get into all this. Now, with increasing gadgetry and increasing mechanization and increasing ways of communication or non-communication,
right,
cheating has come to be an integral part of living.
Right.
Now, if somebody asks me, do you cheat? I have to say honestly, yes, I do cheat.
Correct.
They'll say, why are you cheating? I cheat because there is no other alternative. So it's a very funny
So,
paradoxical.
yeah. So
Comment
I
on.
think you make a very important point across these two slides. I think which is, you use the word hard work and cheating. All right.
Yes,
And I think by themselves they make the point. But I think they also signify something a little larger, which is when your ambition or your what you do is based on long-term sustainable things, right? Whether it is hard work or whether it is, for example, empathy for others, whether it is actually taking into account everyone's interests, it
right,
has a chance of staying in balance and actually sustaining. Uh,
right,
Cheating is an example of something which very easily you start, if you're driven by a compulsion to get results quickly, or because the need for the fruits of ambition is too high, you will take
right,
shortcuts. Those shortcuts will
right,
take various forms, right? One will be cheating, something else maybe, let's say, ruthlessness. It may not be outright cheating, but it might be, for example, you break relations with important clients, with members of your team, whatever else, or family. And then by definition, it's not in balance. It will not sustain. It will break down. And somebody is going to stab you in the back, to go back to your Julius Caesar point, right?
right,
Caesar himself. Caesar was definitely very good for Rome till a point, and then he was seen as a threat, and his existence was ended by simply people who saw him as too much of a threat. So
right,
I see cheating and hard work as actually metaphors for something even larger, which is keeping
right,
things in balance, right? And doing the right things at the larger level.
right, right, right. Next slide, please.
Yes.
Now, here is an example of your value system, how you should not cheat, etc., etc. You know the good old story of the woodcutter cutting trees in the forest, and in the process, his axe fell into the river, and sort of got submerged and down there, and he couldn't make out where it is. So he prayed to God, and God sent him an angel, and the angel was to pick up his axe and give him, and which he did. The angel, first of all, took the axes made of, there were many axes in the riverbed. You know, the angel took the biggest and the rawest one, like iron uh, uh, axe, so to speak.
Right.
And the angel asked the woodcutter, "Is this your
Is this your act?
axe?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it is yours. And there was a temptation. Here, mind you, there is a temptation, biblical temptation of, you and I would have said, yeah, yeah, I would do this, I would do that. But then this went on from iron axe to silver axe to gold axe and so forth. And at each level, the woodcutter said, no, no, this is not my axe, this is not my axe. Mine is very ordinary one made of just wood and clay.
Right.
So the angel was very happy with that answer. And that answer was based on what? Honesty.
Right.
And honesty, next slide, please. Honesty is supposed to be the best policy because it is supposed to be sustainable, but
Right.
it is very tough. It
Right.
is tough to resist the temptation. And anything that you do repeatedly, as Aristotle would put it, you should do it repeatedly so as to make it a habit, and that habit will sustain you, and that habit will see through you, your thick and thin. So honesty is the best policy, is a proverb. But
Right.
this proverb is, and will always be based on past experience and future behavior. So honesty is the best policy, is the one for ambition. Now, at times this may sound very contradictory because ambition is difficult to sustain, and honesty is difficult to sustain, and ambition gets tempted and so forth. So it's
Correct.
a very complex dilemma of one's mindset and behavior that one has to overcome. Now, ambition, there is always a temptation of cheating,
Right.
and it will never go right from family up to society and the world at large. One has to be careful about this. Next slide, please. Any comment, Winko?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you have to have ambition, and you cannot be just intelligent and without being ambitious, because intelligence without ambition is a bird without wings.
Right.
Now, This is a very funny way of putting it. And you are intelligent, but you don't have ambition
Right.
because you don't know. So the ambition is based on value systems, and your intelligence is sort of more or less static with regard to your behavior acquired and expressed.
Right.
But there is no scope for growth, and there is no real element of ambition. And in that case, you are no good. You are no good because you are a bird without wings, and your intelligence cannot find expression in a sustainable way in the real world.
Right.
Next slide. Any comment, Twinkle?
No, you're right. I think this brings us back to the very beginning where we were saying that ambition is necessary, right? Ambition is what gives us the drive to overcome the natural obstacles in everything. Like, for example, working hard is not easy. You need something
Right,
that will drive you through the difficulties of working hard, and that is ambition, right? So,
right,
that ambition is that motive force that pushes you forward or pulls you forward.
right,
It's necessary, otherwise, you can't give expression to anything.
correct.
Which, yeah, exactly to this point. Yeah.
When ambition enters the picture, you have to be ambitious about something. You have to be ambitious for something. You have to be uh, you have to be driving your ambition and channelizing it in such a way for
Correct.
which visualization is a useful tool.
Right.
Now, suppose people asked Captain Cook, who went to discover America,
Right.
and the Captain Cook behavior was such that people were dying. People were leaving their home countries like in Africa and other places, and you would set sail for hundreds and thousands of miles, and there was no land side visible in front. And still, people said, Captain Cook said particularly, his comrades were losing interest, and the Captain Cook said, I can visualize my Australia. People say, you are mad or what? You only sea all around you. And how can you visualize Australia? And he was visualizing Australia because that is a driving force.
Right.
And people said he was daydreaming, but he was daydreaming with a purpose. Now, the same thing applies to all our behavioral things. You want to get a gold medal in your exam, you have to sort of visualize the gold medal in your hand, and that helps you in, driving yourself.
Right.
It's called daydreaming, but we don't use the word daydreaming anymore. We say daydreaming is too rough.
Correct.
If you daydream, or if you visualize, you're driven better.
Correct.
So I would the line daydreaming and would say visualization is always
Daydreaming
with a
with a
purpose.
purpose.
It's always with a purpose. It should be with a purpose.
Right.
Aimless visualization, it doesn't exist. It's useless. It has to be
Yeah.
visualized. It should be with a purpose and so forth. But daydreaming is okay. For a proverb, daydreaming may be okay, but not in real life.
Correct.
Slide, please. Any comment, Venku?
No.
Yeah, a couple of other examples of our behavior. Now, as you know, in this series of interactors, we are looking at only the individual behavioral patterns. We are
Right.
not looking at commerce. We are not looking at anything more complicated or whatever.
Or
But
we are
we are
not looking
looking
at a
at
group setting or a corporate setting. We are first looking at the individual and how the individual can mold himself. Correct.
right, right. Now, the dog in the manga it's a universally known entity.
Right.
It's very simple. There is a manga where there is hay,
Right.
and a dog is standing there, and it keeps barking at anyone who comes close.
Correct.
Yeah. Somebody asks the dog, "Why are you barking? You can't eat the hay, no? You cannot eat the stuff in the manga." But the dog
Correct.
said, "No, no, keep on barking because that is my job." Dog,
So I
it
will
won't.
neither eat nor let anyone else eat. Correct.
Yeah, karo ya karao mat, this kind of political games are being played. Daro ya daro mat, that kind of a
Or rather, in
thing.
this case, basically, even if it can't benefit you, you don't want anyone else to be benefited, is
Yeah,
really the driving thing behind the dog in the manual. Yeah.
the crab syndrome is another word, which we'll
Yeah.
look at some other time.
Correct.
Next slide, please.
I think just a time check, doctor. We have another 5 minutes, I think, at best. So yeah, go
No,
ahead.
no, we are finishing. This is the last slide.
Right.
Now, ambition is good. Ambition is needed. You cannot live without ambition, and you have to guard against bad ambition.
Right.
All this is controlled by your conscience.
Right.
Your conscience which is a sum total of your behavioral patterns that you have learned from your parents. Most importantly, right from childhood, right from infanthood.
Right.
The do's and don'ts about conscience are getting well established. And your behavior into adult, into the graveyard, will have to be driven by conscience. And conscience must control, be the counter check and check of ambition. The ambition without conscience and conscience without ambition, you can imagine what are the consequences. But conscience is required for ambition, and that should lead you along a good path. And that is not easy to follow. It's a very tough call, but one has to. One has to
Yeah.
lead a meaningful life. One has to leave a legacy. It should all happen like that. Yeah, Venkatesh?
Yeah. No, I think this is a great place to summarize, because in
Yeah,
effect the truth is that the only way to keep the excesses of any behavior in check
yeah,
is to look at how it affects your values. I mean, how your value systems are affected by what you do, right?
right,
So if
right.
it is, selfish, and that means your value system says, no, I need to take care of people who depend upon me, not just family, but maybe team members. I need to be kind. I need to be honest. It's an automatic check and balance on your ambition, right? And I
Right.
think today we discussed a lot about, in some ways, the ethics vis-a-vis other people in ambition. But even, and maybe that's part of another topic as well, even something
Yeah,
like hard work, right, can unchecked become workaholism, can make you not be a person. So maybe you're not cheating, maybe you're working hard,
right.
but it can become a situation where if you're obsessed with only hard work, you will neglect your
Yeah,
duties as a father or a mother, or a brother, or whatever else it might be, right? So
right.
everything being contextualized by your value systems and by your larger roles and responsibilities is maybe the best way to keep anything in balance. Ambition is one example.
Right. Very good. So that's good. Nice, nice summary as always.
Thank you,
So thank you very
doctor.
much. Yeah.
So lovely, and look forward to the next session. Thank you so much,
Yes.
doctor, again. Yeah, take care.
Thank you.
Bye. See you.